Hello and welcome out of our Costa Rican home for a new juice letter share. We thought
Spicy one.
a spicy one, and I think a pretty common topic in relationships, and if it's even more long term, can increase, don't have to. So what have we done when the man wants to explore outside? So the topic is, I think, very common. It can happen that one of the both, or maybe sometimes men, sometimes women, want to explore outside of the relationship sexually with someone else. How do you actually go about this? We have many of these experiences because in the first, I would say, year, 1.5 years, yeah, Bruno was sometimes still drawn to this, but maybe we start with one of the experiences. What have we actually done and how did we go about it? Do you want to start sharing?
Well, I don't know where to start.
Me, for example, I remember this was not in the beginning, but we had several of them. So I share one of them. We were on a trip actually to another place, not in the place where we lived, and Neo was already born. And we were laying in bed all three. Like there were places where we slept differently, like Bruno in another bed than me, or me with Neo. And in this, because we were as a family on a trip, we all slept together in the bed. And in this case, we were already a bit further in the process that actually Bruno was able to communicate that he now would love to download Tinder and to talk other girls. So this is now a spoiler where we've landed before he had no more interest, but still in the process. And so for me, it was like, okay, then do it. And you might be now surprised. It's like, what?
What the fuck? No, I want to say that to put a little bit of context on my personal life story, I think what has happened to me is this lack of attention from my mother, and the lack of attention from my mother as a man, I've been looking it on other women. So even if I was with Tina, I haven't. I still needed to heal this wound of the mother of attention, right? Because Tina can give me a lot of attention, but it's not never gonna be what's gonna heal. It's gonna be myself that do that work. So of course through Neo being born, of course Tina was a lot with Neo and was not having all this space for myself. So I was confronted with being alone a lot of times. And one of the things that I used to cope with this void of being alone and so on was to look for attention in other women. So one of my escapisms was to download dating apps. In this case, would be Tinder, and just have conversations with women, just to get that attention that I was seeking. So yes, it can seem a little bit psychopathic, but it was very like, I think every one of us has something in different forms. So for me, for example, would be like watching pornography or downloading dating apps to have that attention. And I think you listening to this podcast, listening to this juice letter, I think you something might come to your mind of something you do that you're ashamed of. You may have some guilt afterwards of doing it, and you don't share it to your partner because of that shame and guilt. But that is driving disconnection with your partner, because at the end you know what you're doing is wrong for you. So there's some shame around it. So that's why you don't share it. And because you don't share it, but you think about it, then you create the disconnection. So this is what was happening a lot with Tina and me. So late in the night, I was doing these kind of things because Tina was with Neo on the bed, and I was alone. So there I could do the things that I'm by myself. So you know, she's not gonna know. The problem was that every time I did this, the next morning I was feeling very off, and I'm a very transparent guy, so Tina could feel everything. So it was very easy for me in this case to share because there was no escape. I had to share that I had downloaded Tinder, which was very hard for me because I'm very hard on myself sometimes and I want to be very in integrity. And I knew that doing this kind of things was not, um, you know, on high standards, let's say. So it was hard for me, but I would share, right? So I think that's what we want to communicate first on the video, that there are certain things that we do that we are ashamed and we feel guilty of, and we don't share with our partner. And that is creating a lot of disconnection with our partner because we're not being transparent, we're not being honest, and actually we have a lot of shame and guilt about that what we're doing. So how can we find ways into communicating those things that we're working on? Because yes, you can think that Bruno is an asshole because he's talking to other women while he has his woman. So what the fuck is Bruno doing talking to other women? Like the normal kind of woman would have said, fuck you, I don't want to be with you, right? Because she's jumping onto her, what we call the outer child, the reactive side that we all have.
In combination with the inner child, what is wounded.
In combination with something called the inner child, which is this wounded boy or girl. But Tina has done work, okay, has done inner work, and she was coming from a compassionate and understanding point of view, in the sense, let's gonna dive deep into this topic, and why is Bruno doing this? There has to be an explanation. I know Bruno loves me, wants to be with me, takes care of me, but why is he doing these kind of things, right? And I'm gonna let him explore, I'm gonna let him process that what is happening, right? And let's work together on that, right? I think that is the first step that the woman has to do, or in this case it was me that was doing these kind of things, but it can be you, I don't know. So your partner has to learn to come from a compassionate perspective and understanding, and being mature emotionally and not react, right? Because if you react and you start reacting, it's going to be very difficult to solve that thing that you're doing that you're ashamed of. So with the time, I've been able to solve it. And we came to the conclusion talking that actually I didn't want to have sex with other women, which was one of the ideas that we have at the beginning. I was thinking, oh, maybe I want to have sex with other women. That's why I'm downloading these dating apps. But at the end, talking about it with Tina, through the different times that I did it, we came to the conclusion that what I was looking for was attention of my mother. So I was able to work around that attention, and with the time, heal it. And with the time, now I don't need to download Tinder because I give the attention to me, and I've done that work, but that's a different story. But you see, the fact that we talked about it, that we communicated, we were able to work around it together as a couple, and get to the bottom of the situation, why this was happening. And you see, it was not because I'm a bad person and I wanna fuck other women, have sex with other women. Actually, thanks to talking about it, being very honest and transparent about what was going on, what I was feeling, we got to the conclusion of what was happening, which is this attention, right? And now, of course, we're at a very different point where I don't do it anymore. But that's not the focus of the video. It's just this communication around these kind of topics.
Exactly. I want to add two things. Like, one thing from the beginning, I was, for example, saying, like, if you want to explore with someone else, who am I to limit you in your life experience? So I'm a person who worked on my sexuality and on my path to say, like, if whatever you want to experience, I'm not the one to limit you in your desires. When we have the same values, when we have a shared vision, and when we have a fulfilling and vibrant and juicy relationship. These are, let's say, the conditions I want to have to then being able to communicate if you want to have something, what we are not having, yet still we feel in alignment, in integrity, we feel the passion, the connection, the juice, the vibrance, and still there is something what you don't get from this, then we can talk about it. So this is where I was coming into the relationship with this state. And so then experiencing this several times with the dating or the pornography is like, okay, is there something missing? So back to communication, like sitting down is, are you missing something in the relationship? Because this is the first focus you want to have, is like, is something missing in here that you have this desire, or where's this desire coming from? Or do you have maybe desires for us what we haven't spoken about? So you see, the key is the communication, and the other key is that you've worked a bit on your inner side of the emotional maturity, having worked on your inner wounds and simply understanding. It's not that they have to go away, it's about understanding if your inner child is now sad, wounded. Your inner child wants protection and safety. Then there's the outer child who reacts, the adolescent who says like fuck you. And then the adult matured version, who is mostly, in my cases with Bruno, it was always like I could, as the adult version, always understand what's going on and understand him and understand the dynamic. But also obviously I had my inner child who worked on the abandonment father wound of being abandoned and stuff, yet being aware, observing this from the outside, and also communicating this like, oh, my inner child, my inner girl would now need reassurance, would need blah 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 blah. What does my inner child need? But also understanding from the adult version what's happening and having compassion for the partner. Like you see, there's inner work needed, and also the communication. I think these are the two key elements to this video and this topic.
Yeah, and don't think that Tina didn't have to do work on this, because she was crying, she couldn't sleep, so it was not, oh, she's like how do you call it, like a zen, like nothing happens to her. No, she was actually, she connected with that wound of my father, her father, when she was very little, run away. So she connected with, oh, now my man is gonna run away with another woman. But that was the little girl. And then of course we worked on safety, on reassurance, on, you know, working around these things to stay connected.
And staying open with my adult version of, if he wants to explore something in life, I want to support him on your path, and still checking in with my values, my boundaries, my standards, the vision, and my desire, how my relationship should feel. So this is also lots of checking in with yourself and not compromising your own needs and desires and values, and still checking in if you are still in the same boat and if it's like you want it to feel. So you see there's lots of conversation also in a more matured way, because this is how you stay actually connected.
Yeah, and we make this video just to wrap it up, because this is actually happening in, I would say, all the relationships. Like I don't believe anyone that says that a man, in my case, from the perspective of a man, hasn't thought about having sex with another woman. If he hasn't said that, one is because he's lying, or because he's homosexual, maybe, and you don't know that he's homosexual. But let's let's hope he is not, if you are on a heterosexual relationship. But this is a thought that crosses men's mind. Okay, so if you're a woman, you're watching this video, yes, he has those things. If you haven't talked about this, it's inside of him. So it's, you see, it's not a easy conversation. It's a challenging conversation, but it's so important to have these conversations to express our desires. Our desires cannot be suppressed. The more we suppress them, the more we're gonna go against us. You know, things can come up in our bodies, and resentment is gonna build up. Things are gonna be building up with the time, with the years. So we wanna be very, very, very communicative on these desires that we have. Either if it's exploring with someone else, either is anything that you can imagine. But we have to share that with our partner, especially if we have guilt and shame, because actually it's very liberating when you can work around the shame and guilt of anything that you have. That is true freedom and liberation, when you're free from all those stuff that you don't want to do, but you do because there's something to work around. But you know, what is the most important to take from the video? I think Tina was mentioning before, but yeah.
I think it's communication, honestly, transparently, vulnerably, with the intent of staying connected rather than letting the outer child play out in like rejection, offense, defense, ego, trigger. These conversations doesn't lead to anything than resentment and disconnection. So you want to come from a compassionate and connecting place, vulnerable place, staying open, and then having the perspectives of your matured one and your inner one. So like being more the observer in the conversation, who is now talking and feeling. I think this whole thing about the conversation, and also doing the check-in, if you're like having the maybe challenging conversations, if you're still in the same boat, what do we need, what do you need, how can I support you, and letting the feelings come up, but stay in the connection loop rather than in the disconnection loop. And yeah, so all of this hopefully was something in there. We would love to know. So whenever you have questions for us, where you would love to see us sharing a specific situation, or you have a specific situation where you not yet having a how to solve it or how to go better about it, ask us. So we answer, and then we
Well,
will
of
see.
course. I mean, let's be honest here. That's why you are in the juice letter, because here it's we don't have filter here.
Yeah.
Okay, so I know personally that you have something around that, and that's why you're here. So please, if you have an experience that's been going on, and you don't know what to do with it, this is the space. That's why we want to create a intimate connection with you guys. You know, to share. You can share with us in an email what's happening, and ask us questions. We are gonna evaluate so much, and that's gonna create that communication, and then we create the connection and the intimacy as well.
Exactly.
So we are gonna be doing more juice letters, and in every letter we're gonna share an experience like this one, and that happens to us, and how we use these tools that we teach in Brad and Lola to go about these conversations, create connection, and create this vibrant relationship that we all want.
Exactly. Ciao, ciao. Thank you for being here.